Hello, and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 58, Thursday, April 22nd, 2021.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I am joined, as always, by the Dr. Dawson to my Basil, my lovely co-host, Emily.
Courtney, as you would say as Basil, it's elementary, and this is going to be a great episode. I don't think people are ready for this.
Well, joining us today are two guest readers, the co-hosts of Poor Unfortunate Podcast, Conor Perkins and Caroline Emily. Poor Unfortunate Podcast hails itself as the ultimate listening experience for the grown-up Disney kids. These two hosts aren't afraid to share their hottest of takes on all things Disney. In addition to weighing in on the latest news, they regularly rotate their episode themes around rants and raves, tips and tricks, showdowns, and the occasional wild card. Like me and Emily, these two podcast pals hail from the Northeast and became fast friends in college, bonding over their love of Disney and theater, and we're proud to count them as our podcast pals and Disney trivia teammates. Welcome, Conor and Caroline.
Hello.
Hi, friends. We're really excited to be here.
So before we dive into The Great Mouse Detective, our listeners should learn a little bit more about you and your amazing podcast, which is celebrating its first year on the air. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us more about yourselves and what started your podcast?
Yeah, so Caroline and I are both actors in New York City, and we met in college and instantly connected over our shared love of Disney. And then we became roommates in 2016. And that is around the time that the idea for Poor Unfortunate Podcast was born. As actors, it's always the question, how do you keep yourself artistically sustained when you're not #booked and blessed? So creating our own podcast seemed like a great opportunity for us to create something that filled that void while also being about something that we love.
Yeah, and we're two 90s kids, and we wanted to create a podcast that would make all of us now grown-up Disney lovers feel seen and heard and appreciated. As you summed up for us, we do cycle through 4 formats: the rant and the rave, the showdown, tips and tricks, and wild card, which usually ends up being some kind of game. People are super into the game. So recently, we made the Beluga Savruga brackets, and we invited our listeners to play along with their brackets for prizes. And so if you want a little bit of a vibe of what the podcast is like, somehow Brandy Cinderella, Grand Marnier slushes from Epcot, Professor Ratigan, and my personal fear of the Tower of Terror come up in nearly every episode. So if that sounds like your jam, we would love to have you become a part of our fam. And we have an official group for that too. So the Poor Unfortunate Fam on Facebook is a private group for, Disney lovers who are grown up now to connect and make new friends. So we'd love to have people there.
Yeah, but Emily, as you said, we just officially launched a year ago at the start of the pandemic and finished season 1 just last month. And we've kicked off season 2 with an Easter spring bonus episode, and then full episodes will be returning on May 3rd. But in terms of our connection with Book of the Mouse Club, Courtney and I actually go pretty far back to doing theater camp together when I was in middle school. And we've stayed sort of loosely in touch. Go Theater Works. But over the past couple of years, our friendship fires, they've been stoked, especially surrounding the podcast. And now I've met my fellow Great Mouse Detective aficionado in Emily, and we have our podcast pals.
Yes, our theater production was a fantastic one-act musical for children's camps, The Lady Pirates of Captain Bree, which I'm sure any theater fan would be aware
Most
of.
people have seen this show.
Of Tony Award winning. But it's been fun to reunite with our shared love of Disney and podcasting, and all four of us came together for E-Ticket to Broadway's charity Disney Trivia Night to win second place. Our team was so in love with Pooh Am I, a theatrical nod to Kiss Me Kate for the event's co-host Stephanie Stiles, and that was so much fun.
I don't know how we pulled that off.
I don't know either, but we nailed it.
That was, I think, the best part of the whole night was we were so sure we were like in fourth, fifth place.
Yeah.
At one, like, oh wait, we're tied for third. And then when he said tied for third and it wasn't us, we're like, yeah, okay, we dropped to fourth. And then when he said second, the fact that all of us freaked out. I wish everyone could have seen our chat.
Oh my god.
And we got 100 stickers, so we each got 25 stickers to
Oh my
share.
God, incredible.
Which was awesome. So that was a lot of fun, but we are ready for more podcast fun today.
Yes.
We are.
And it's really, again, this collaborative effort, because after listening to your episode of the brackets, the Beluga Saruga brackets, and I learned of Connor's love of Professor Ratigan, he and I started going back and forth in our own chat about how much Great Mouse Detective is underrated.
So
and
good.
then I texted Courtney, we were like, this should be our episode. And so I apologize, or not apologize in advance, that Connor and I are about to hardcore geek out.
I'm
over
ready.
this.
I'm so
I'm ready to
excited.
dominate.
I'm excited for y'all.
Yeah, I am.
So we're going to start with the movie, The Great Mouse Detective. And as always, Courtney gives us the background from the Disney perspective. So would you please tell us about the film?
Sure. So The Great Mouse Detective celebrates its 35th anniversary this summer. It was released July 2nd, 1986. And you know I love my copies of Disney A to Z, so I've pulled a quick plot summary from there. It shares the Great Mouse Detective is, quote, the animated adventures of a mouse, Basil of Baker Street, who is called upon to search for a toy maker, Flaversham, who has been kidnapped to make a robot replica of the queen for the evil Ratigan. Basil, aided by the intrepid Dr. Dawson, helps the toy maker's daughter, Olivia, search for her father, end quote. And this film was the directorial debut of the dynamic duo of John Musker and Ron Clements, along with two other directors. Now, these two went on later to helm The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, The Princess and the Frog, and Moana, and you'll likely recognize many of those titles from the Disney Renaissance. But this film predates it and was developed during a time when the Disney Animation Studio was struggling. Clements pitched the film as Basil of Baker Street in 1982, and it was approved by then CEO Ron Miller. Michael Eisner then took over in 1984 and brought in Jeffrey Katzenberg as the studio chairman. At this time, the budget for the film was severely reduced, and it was accelerated for a 1986 release. Notably, in development, Eisner decided that the title Basil of Baker Street was too English, and the title was changed to The Great Mouse Detective, which upset the filmmakers in the animation studio. There's actually a great scene in the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary where an infamous memo goes out retitling classic Disney films kind of in this style to things like 7 little men help a girl, the girl with see-through shoes, the little deer who grew up, 2 dogs fall in love, and my favorite, Robin Hood with animals. It even inspired a timely Jeopardy category, and they include a clip of that in the documentary. But despite these name changes and internal struggles, the film was generally well received by critics, and it was a modest success for the studio at the box office. The film made $50 million against its budget of $14 million, thus paving the way financially for the Disney Renaissance. Interestingly, the film was again retitled as The Adventures of the Great Mouse Detective for a theatrical re-release in 1992, and that title card remained in the opening sequence for the subsequent VHS editions, even though the box still said the right title, until a DVD release in 2010. So I'm sure those VHS tapes were present for most of our childhoods. I'd love to know, what are your earliest memories of the film, and is this a go-to for you? Why or why not?
Well, as prefaced before, this is definitely one of my go-tos. I can't pick the first time I watched it, but I have to credit my love to my first childhood friend, Mary. She was my neighbor, and she introduced me to this film. And it was just one of our favorites. I don't know why we always turned it on. Maybe it's because as like a 5-6-year-old, like, Fidget's a little scary, like the bursting through the window and the popping out of the baby carriage. Maybe that was just like a little bit thrilling for like a 6-year-old, where like we thought we were cool and like, it's scary. I don't know, but we absolutely loved this. And overall, I think I've always loved Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock type mysteries and anything emulating Sherlock Holmes. I've read numerous books where they use him. Idol. I actually got to live on Baker Street for a month when I was studying abroad. Sherlock Holmes was my neighbor. I lived in the flat next door.
Oh my God.
It was awesome. It was so cool. Yeah, getting to say like, I'm going to Baker Street. Like, it just sounded surreal.
Oh my God.
So I've just always returned to this one. I like it because it's kind of action-y. I like the soundtrack. It's kind of motivating. It's fun. I like Victorian England. So it just kind of all meshes for me. But I give the credit to my first friend, still dear friend, Mary, who introduced me to the film. And we watched it probably once a week because it was one of her favorites. So it became one of mine.
Wow. Shout out to Mary. It's interesting. This was not one of my go-tos. My earliest memory of anything related to this film is actually The World's Greatest Criminal Mind being a part of the Disney sing-along songs tape. Yeah, that sing-along song tape, like, I wore that out. I watch that all the time. So I know The World's Greatest Criminal Mind inside and out. I especially loved, the pink wine fountain. I obviously have a problem because King Stefan's pink wine is also a favorite of mine. So pink wine. So that's really the only reason it was ever really memorable to me, was because it's sing-along songs. And then when I rewatched it to talk about it with y'all, I realized I'm glad I'm saying this because this will balance out, Conor and Emily. I don't know if I fully watched this all the way through ever. I think as a kid, I started it, wasn't super interested, which is interesting because Emily, I lived in London for a while too. I'm super into Victorian England, love it all. But this was never my thing. And I'm wondering if it's because I think what my mom would put on was the stuff that she loved watching when I was younger. So I was always cycling between Snow White, Mary Poppins, Pocahontas. Those were my big three. And this was just never a part of the setup. So this has been almost like an introduction for me. So yeah.
My gosh, Caroline.
Sorry.
I feel like I don't even know you.
So sorry.
Well, I mean, for me, I actually, contrary to popular belief, didn't own this VHS tape as a kid. Oh. And the first time I saw it was over at my cousin's house, and I loved it. And sure, the moments with Fidget were definitely really freaky, but I was just obsessed, and I needed to watch it every time I went to visit. But as an older person, this movie is absolutely a go-to for me. I think, in the same way that Emily, it's the action, it's the adventure for me. And I think part of it is also the nostalgia from it being a movie that I didn't own for such a long time. So it's its own special thing that then I, as an adult, was able to sort of bring under my wing and take possession of, which was great. And then, yeah, I'm a big fan of mysteries. I love Sherlock Holmes. I love all Holmesian types thing. I have not been to London, so excuse me, but
so Conor, when we make our Sherlock Holmes Great Mouse Detective spin-off podcast, we'll go to London and record live.
Absolutely, that will happen. You heard it here first, folks. But yeah, I think it's also, there's something to be said for a true Disney adventure that is not too emotionally taxing. I do love the Disney movies that make me feel all of the things and weep uncontrollably, but I just as much love one that I can have as background fodder as I'm just like doing other things, or when I need a quick feel good movie, or I'm eating dinner alone and I need some voices to keep me company, or like, you know, that type of thing. And this is that movie for me.
So what I've gathered is we're doing the podcast equivalent of the reality show Wife Swap, because I am in the same boat as Caroline. I actually looked up today. I was like, I remember this sing-along VHS, but I was like, which of this was it on? And it was on Disney Sing-Along Songs, Be Our Guest.
I was trying to find out. Thank you. Okay.
In reflecting, I think I didn't own the VHS, because when I was looking up the release dates, it went on VHS in like 1992 along with that theatrical release, and that would have been the year that I was born. So I don't feel like my parents were collecting VHS tapes for our collection until I came along. And then it seemed like it didn't come out again until 1999. And I feel like we're kind of after the Disney Renaissance at that point. We're moving in to DVDs. So I know I had seen it, but like Caroline, I most associate was like this Ratigan song. It's a banger. It's real good. And probably watched it at a friend's house. And it was not a staple for me. And the last time I saw it, aside from watching it in preparation for this episode, was actually in college with Emily. I think Emily had to bring, I know we watched on VHS, and this is why I don't think that I owned
the infamous
it.
night that I made chicken pot pie for us.
That was in my notes, that you made chicken pot pie.
I mentioned that other time. Sorry. I mentioned that other time on the podcast, so now you know that was the film we watched.
I think you had to bring your VHS copy from your parents' house so that we could watch it on my VCR, and you made chicken pot pie. And I just remember that summer I had ended a 2-year relationship, and my way of coping was to have friends over to make dinner and watch Disney movies. So it was definitely a comfort moment. My roommate, she was like kind of around sporadically that summer, but I know Betsy was there with us that night, and it was really fun to watch it along with Emily, because I know it is such one of her big favorites. But I think like Caroline, I was like, have I seen this all the way through? I don't remember this dancing mouse in the bar.
Oh,
we'll get to her.
We'll get there.
But good memories with Emily, and then it was fun to give it my attention this weekend.
So before we get into more specifics about the film, it's very clear it's inspired by Sherlock Holmes. As seen by our introduction, it has the lines. It's elementary. It has, the Basil wears the full detective gear that is very synonymous with Sherlock Holmes, the locations of Baker Street. It all is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. But why do you think people are still so fascinated by Sherlock Holmes? What do you think, what about the characters in these stories is intriguing to you?
I think, as with any mystery, but with Sherlock Holmes especially, I find it so satisfying when everything comes together in terms of solving the mystery. And I'm personally very fascinated by the character of Sherlock because he sees things that nobody else sees, but then is very, and maybe I'm just giving away too much of my own personal neuroses, but I also find it interesting that he's so brilliant but imperfect, like does not really have very good interpersonal skills. I think that makes for a really fascinating character. And then I love the duo of Sherlock and Watson. I think it's so iconic, and I'm able to love them both equally because they're opposites. And I think that's what makes them such a perfect duo, and worth repeating for sure in Dawson and Basil.
All right, I'm afraid someone's going to come and take away my Bachelor's of English diploma, because I am actually not a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, and people are like, why are you doing this episode? But it's for you guys, because I love you. I feel like I could get into it if I gave it a chance, and I just feel like Sherlock permeates our culture, so there's certainly references in all types of media. I just don't think I've read, well, I know I haven't read any of them, but I haven't seen the BBC show or like the film adaptations. I know everybody's looking at me like They're going to come with pitchforks.
Oh.
But
It's okay.
Speaking at a more holistic level, I think it's just a love of a good mystery, like you said, Caroline. I do enjoy contemporary mysteries and thrillers in my own personal reading, and I always respect the writing that goes into a mystery and like how carefully plotted everything has to be as to not give it away, but still, you know, come to that satisfying ending. So I will give Sherlock a chance, you guys.
I mean, I think Sherlock Holmes is an interesting character. I mean, most people do. I think people are always sort of intrigued by crime and mysteries because I think, you know, we're always looking to create balance or a narrative for ourselves that makes something make sense. And there's also that sort of like jolt of adrenaline of like hearing something that could happen to you. It's like both dangerous and intriguing. And I think that's why true crime has such a huge following. But I think Sherlock is just so intriguing because he takes some of the most interesting crimes and gives us just as interesting a narrative for the solution. And like, I think of the Speckled Band, for example. I mean, Courtney, clearly this is not for you, but I think of like the Speckled Band where it's like, it's, you know, I'm not going to give it away in case people want to read it because it's a short one and it's like fantastic and people should 100% read it. But I don't know, it's a bonkers solution, but one that we could have guessed if we really just like took in all of the facts and rid ourselves of like our preconceived like impossibilities of what it could be. So, and then I think there's also something really empowering about deductive reasoning as being Sherlock Holmes's like go-to weapon in this, because it gives you the sense that like anyone could do it. If anyone looks at something in this particular way, anyone could solve it. And we will just, when we fail or when we don't see the things, we'll try better or we'll try harder and practice and get it right the next time. But like having a detective who's not a member of law enforcement, but someone who can see everything about a certain situation better than they can, I don't know. I think that's very attractive. It's that sort of like everyman sort of quality that we see in him. And it's like a skill that we can aspire to.
I had a lot of the same thoughts as you, Connor. I think what makes his stories intriguing, like you said, it's those really random crimes. And we even see that in Basil of Baker Street by Eve Titus. Very random crimes.
Yeah.
Very weird. We see that in The Great Mouse Detective. Like, okay, replace the queen with a toy so you can usurp the government. Okay.
100%.
But you're right. It's so incredibly creative and you don't see it coming. And it's so fun. I think there are also mysteries where in some thrillers you can start putting it together yourself. And maybe you're not completely right, but you're like, yes, I was right. It was so and so. It was, Mr. Green in the hall with the revolver. But Sherlock, you're just baffled. You're like, I can't wait to figure out what this is. And I think you're right that he's kind of a superhero in a non-superhero sense. Because, I don't know, maybe it's someone that, like, us nerds can, like, attach to. Because I'm like, I'm not strong. I'm not fast. I'm not a good fighter. But I can think. And I like to read and do research. And that's what his whole character is based on, is he's dedicated his time to so much learning that he can use that to solve problems. And I think people find that fun. And there is enough action. You have, Professor Moriarty, you have that, nemesis, and it persists throughout the books and throughout the stories. And it's just great. I kind of put Sherlock Holmes on the level, at least allusion wise, as like the Bible or even Shakespeare, because like Courtney, and Caroline, how you haven't read as much Sherlock Holmes, but you can recognize it as soon as you see it. So I feel like, English class allusions. Pulled that one out of
with an A
literature. Yes, allusions with an A. I would put Sherlock Holmes kind of at that level where it's so universally acknowledged because we like you said, that thrill, that mystery, and he is a fun character. Like you also said, Caroline, he's imperfect, but in a way that he's intriguing and endearing, even though at sometimes you kind of want to smack him.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this is what I wanted to ask y'all. because I definitely have an opinion on this, so I'm excited. Let's talk about the characters. Favorites or least favorites. We know that, this is going to be Connor's moment to talk about Ratigan. But what does everybody else have to say first?
We'll let Connor go first.
Okay.
Because I've been waiting for this.
Okay.
All right. Crack
Spotlight's
knuckles.
yours.
All right. So the pressure's on. I've already raved about Ratigan in one of our episodes on our podcast because he's just such a good villain. He's charming, he's ruthless, he's brilliant, he's violent, and he sings. So, everything that you could ever want. He has pirouettes for days. I mean, first off, we have to give Ratigan his due because he paves the way for the villain song in Disney musicals. This is the first time that we have a villain singing their own song. The only thing that we have before that is Cruella de Vil, where it's a song that's sung about the villain, but not hers. We have Ratigan. He is taking charge of his narrative. He's singing his heart out, and he sounds pretty good. So yeah, credit where credit's due. Vincent Price and Ratigan, these are some real serious trailblazers right here. And then, I think also whenever you have Vincent Price in your cast, you made the best choice you could have made for your movie. Like, that's like a rule of cinema. The man's a legend. He always makes such good choices, particularly with his voice. He navigates the shifts in Ratigan like so flawlessly that you can truly feel that this is a character who is almost impossible to anticipate. And it's all done in that beautiful voice acting. And then, okay, so now I'm going to get into all of that aside, his qualities. So stealing a bit from the points that I've made previously about him, I think he's the perfect balance of brains and brute strength, because we see him adapt quickly, which tends to be a flaw of most villains, particularly in Disney movies. Whenever there's like a wrench that's thrown in the plan, they can't really just think on their feet and see far enough down the road. And he's able to do both of those things. Like, I think of that moment when he learns that Basil is tracking him and he gets mad, he blows up and he calls Felicia in to eat up Fidget. And then he thinks it over and he's like, okay, how can I use this to my advantage and make sure that it works? And he lays a really successful trap because, Basil was late. Otherwise, Ratigan would have seen it go off and Basil would have been done. So that's on Basil. That's not on Ratigan. That's not his fault. And honestly, if he had gagged them, they'd be done. Because Basil fully gives up. He is done. He is defeated. And if Dawson had just shut his mouth and listened to the beautiful music coming out of the record and not by chance happened to have said, set the trap off now, Basil had given up. So like in that way, Ratigan won. So I give him a point for that one. And then that's the same thing with the clock tower fall. It's not any skill on Basil's part. It's just chance that he would, fall off. And even when he falls off, that rat makes sure that he takes Basil with him. That is effective. That is what we like to see in our villains. And, even in that clock tower sequence, he has his cape moment where he has his Edna mode, no capes moment where it gets stuck in the clock. But this is where his brute strength comes in. He rips that thing to shreds. He saves himself in a way that most villains are not able to do. And then he bounds up there like he has claws. He can leap fast. He gets up to Basil, no problem. Basil is just getting wrecked on that clock tower left and right. This rat can do it all, and he deserves to win. Like, he shakes off 6+ mice in Buckingham Palace before he bounds up to that balcony. He has brains. He has brawn. He is a rat who deserves to win. And honestly, at no point do I really see Basil outsmarting him in any sort of meaningful way, or in the same way that Ratigan outsmarts Basil. So those are some points. I have a couple more.
This is like a master's thesis, and I'm here for it.
Another great trait that he has is that he is not afraid to use other people. He knows when to handle things himself, and he appreciates the value of having a team. And his team, to be honest, is actually pretty effective. They successfully infiltrate the palace. They enact the plan. The queen is literally almost dead, except for, the shenanigans with Toby and the rest. But if that hadn't happened, if he had gagged Dawson, that's the one mistake I'll give him. If he had gagged Dawson, that never would have happened, and he would have won there again. And they're all willing to do it for Ratigan out of fear and love for him, which he manages to beautifully, he manages that by keeping them all on their toes in this perfectly executed emotionally abusive relationship. Not that I'm condoning emotionally abusive relationships, but he does it and does it well. And I mean, he also has a cat. He's able to make a predator work for him. Enough said. But yeah, I mean, this rat, he knows how to find exactly the right leverage for a person and work it against them, which is the skill to have as a villain. He's got the brute strength. He's got the brains. He knows when to work alone. He knows when to have a team. Honestly, I think he wins basically twice. Basil only ever wins, quote unquote, by chance. I don't know what you could possibly want more from your villain. He's got it all. And Vincent Price. Come on.
He also wears a mean 3-piece suit with an ascot.
3-piece suit, purple robes. He wears jewels and medals like it is his job. This rat is styling. I love Ratigan.
I guess I now have to change my answer. That was amazing. Ratigan is now my favorite character in the film.
I'm also kind of biased because I think if I was a Disney villain, I would be Ratigan.
That's what I was going to say. It's very personal for you. Yeah.
It's very personal because it's just the showmanship, all of it. It's me.
There's a flamboyance to him, not in an effeminate way, but there's a theatricality to it that I absolutely love. And it's all Vincent Price.
Exactly.
He is what makes the film. And Sherlock, regardless of which Sherlock you're looking at, Sherlock isn't Sherlock without a good nemesis.
Yeah.
He's not going. Sherlock can't use his abilities well if he doesn't have something to use them for. And that's a theme throughout Sherlock Holmes is when he's bored, he doesn't want anything easy. It's kind of funny at the end of the film, she comes my ring is missing. Really? You can do better than this, Basil. And we see that in other takes of Sherlock Holmes is he refuses to take cases that are too easy. But Ratigan is his pinnacle. This is where he gets to use all of his deductive powers, and it's a challenge for him. And we see that in all of the different takes, the BBC with Moriarty. That is Sherlock, and you can't have a good Sherlock Holmes story without a good villain. Character-wise, I mean, now I'm sold. More so Ratigan than ever before.
Thank you very much.
But I guess the character that's kind of the personal for me is Dr. David Q. Dawson. I love Dawson. He just always made me laugh. His scenes I feel like I would also be the slightly clumsy friend that forgets my role in the middle of the covert operation, and he's
he starts ordering a sherry.
Yeah.
Sailor. I feel like that would be me, where I'd be all about it, yeah, let's get into the adventure, and then I'd slip up in a totally innocent, funny way. I feel like that would be me. But also, I also just connect with Dawson that I want to go on the adventure, but I don't always know how to start the adventure. So I appreciate people who present opportunities to me, and then I get to take a leap that way, and I learn a lot from those friends. And I feel like Dawson does a lot of growing himself, where he's I'm just a doctor, and now he's ooh, I fight crimes. And I like how he never saw that coming and found a friend that is very probably not who he would have originally been friends with, and they become such a dynamic duo. And you can't have Sherlock without Watson, and you can't have Basil without Dawson. And I like his storytelling. I think he's a good narrator.
He is.
Yeah, definitely. And I am also Team Ratigan. I didn't need any convincing because this was the only part of the movie I knew because it was in the sing-along, and I was like, that's Ratigan. He's the world's greatest criminal mind. Watching the film, though, even though this character doesn't have a lot of character development, I am absolutely drawn to Olivia because she is just so
We're the same.
Cute. With the same person, we're doing podcast wife swap. She is too cute. I think because I'm an only child, so I always took to like other small little characters and like I could see this. I feel like I had flaky imaginary friends. I would just rotate through whatever I was watching at the time. So I could see if I had watched this more at an impressionable age, like, oh, Olivia's absolutely my imaginary friend. I just think she is precious.
She is. I also, for the reason that Conor loves this movie, I'm missing a little bit of having my heart crushed. So that moment when we first meet Olivia and she is crying on top of that little box of liver pills and Dawson finds her, it absolutely breaks my little heart. I could barely even watch her cry. Every time she gets upset and is like trying to get someone to pay attention to her in this movie, I can barely hold it together. There is something about her that just really, she just is so sweet and so cute. And I am also a big fan of Toby the dog. I don't think he gets enough credit. Like, he's a good boy. And he also provides a lot of good, just like physical humor. Like when they call him and I forget where they need, like I said, one of my first times watching the film, I forget where they needed to go, but Toby's ear turned into a staircase for them to climb up, just like classic cartoon humor. I like having that element in this movie, and Toby definitely delivers on that. So shout out to the dog.
Yeah, I would say I'm a Toby stan as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also Toby from Great Mouse Detective is one of many reasons why my dog is named Toby.
Yeah.
So I can just go, sit, Toby.
Sit,
Would you like a crumpet, Toby?
A crumpet.
The relationship between Olivia and Toby is just so cute.
Yeah.
And how Basil gets so annoyed where he's like,
Yeah.
"This is my dog," and the dog doesn't listen to him anymore. It's like killing Basil's vibe because Basil's like, I am a great detective. Here's my dog, Toby. And then he doesn't do what you want him to. And he's just like waiting. He's like, no, Toby, you're letting me down.
He chases Felicia over that fence, right to her demise.
And Toby's not afraid of Fidget.
Nope.
No.
But neither is Olivia. Like Olivia, she'd probably be a close second for me to one, she's got a great outfit.
Yeah, that is a great outfit.
Right. Matching scarf.
Mm-hmm.
But she's not afraid. Girl is around London, like you said, by herself trying to find Basil. And then also takes on Ratigan as best as she can, as, 2-inch tall mouse. And she's just not afraid of Fidget either. Like, she freaks out when she gets captured, but like,
she tries to push her way out of that bottle. Like, she does not give up. She's scrappy.
Yeah. She stomps on his one good foot, as he says, to go hug her dad.
A good foot. I mean, we're going through so many different like scenes. So I mean, I'll just ask you all, are there any scenes that stick out to you or favorite sequences that were your favorite from the movie, especially Caroline and Courtney, like
besides the Ratigan song?
As people who are coming to the rest of the movie,
what else happened in this movie?
First time.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I feel like I didn't realize until I watched it in its entirety how quickly the Ratigan scene happens. And I put the timestamp when we were watching last night. I was like, this is only like literally 15 minutes into the film. What a great introduction to the character. Aside from that, I do really enjoy the scene where they're in the tavern and the showgirl mouse comes out. I feel like,
my God, that's what I wrote down.
We're having this discussion because I was like, what? This is something you would not expect in a Disney movie. And it's memorable enough that I feel like I had that what reaction when Emily came over and watched it with me at least 8 years ago that I feel like I was watching it last night with my boyfriend, and I feel like he had definitely seen it, but it had been a while for him too, and I was like, hold up, you need to put your phone down for Showgirl Mouse, because it's about to get real. And I've decided, y'all just did a great episode for Easter on Easter eggs in Disney films, Disney parks. Want to give a shout out to Bill the Lizard from Alice in Wonderland and the Ratigan scene. But I have decided to add my own Easter egg for this Showgirl Mouse scene. We'll get to the book a bit, and there are 2 twin little girl white mice in pink pinafores who are kidnapped, and there are 2 big girl white showgirl mice in pink dresses, and I want to believe that's what happened to them.
They grew up.
They grew to become showgirls.
I choose that as my canon.
Singing back up on "Let Me Be Good to You."
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Let Me Be Good to You is the Let Me Entertain You of Gypsy.
Yes, that's why I love it, because I love Gypsy.
That's the problem. That's why I literally, Courtney, we're the same person. Because I just need to talk about Let Me Be Good to You. Like, okay. I'm not even talking from, a feminism perspective. It's Victorian England, different times. My problem specifically was with the Showgirl Mouse's thighs. It was so anthropomorphic to me that I felt very uncomfortable, especially just like the fact that all of the male mice are like hooting at her and trying to climb up onto the stage. I wasn't comfortable. And I understand the film is geared towards children and we need to break up the action sometimes with a little musical number, a show number. But this for me was not the choice. So it stood out for that reason. Just to talk about something else, I think the Big Ben sequence when they're inside the clock with all of the gears is just absolutely stunning visually, very exciting. And that's definitely my favorite part. Let Me Be Good to You is not my favorite part. Just memorable. just memorable.
That was one of the first things I texted Connor when I was like, so can we talk about how Disney just slipped a burlesque number into a children's film?
She literally says, I'll take off all my blues. And as she says, I'll take off all my blues, she takes off her blue skirt.
No.
But somehow it didn't bother me. Maybe because, I don't know, a testament to my grandmother babysat me a lot. I watched a lot of movie musicals, including Gypsy, from a very young age. So it did not faze me at all.
You gotta get a gimmick.
You gotta get a gimmick.
Yeah. So it didn't faze me. And I thought also find intriguing. This is a Disney movie that also has a decent presence of alcohol.
Yeah.
And smoking.
Smoking as well. Did it have? I didn't look when Disney Plus. Did it have the disclaimer?
It
about
did.
Yeah, it did.
But scenes I particularly want to talk about. We'll talk about the mousetrap. I'm sure, but I think a scene that kind of gets underrated because like you said, the clock tower is fantastic, and that's where we see the first true presence, I think, of CGI in Disney. So again, to go back to what Courtney said, we don't have the Disney Renaissance without the Great Mouse Detective.
We really do not. I am fully in agreement with you, Emily.
So while it's not part, you can debate if it's part of the Disney Renaissance. Some people say it is, some people say it's not. I think I'm in the camp where it's not.
Me too.
But it's necessary. And I think I've learned that like throughout every learning of every Disney film is you need the one before the next because it just doesn't happen.
You need that financial backing.
Some work with CGI. It all gets there. But a scene that I think doesn't get enough credit is I love the action scene in the toy shop. That chase up the blocks, like the music is going. You've got that adrenaline. Olivia just got kidnapped by Fidget. Fidget freaks you out again for like the third time. And that's where we also get like the really weird clues that like Sherlock Holmes is known for. Like, why is he taking all of the gears and these uniforms? Like, it is very random. Like now it's not so random, maybe because we've seen it so much that you're like, well, duh, he needs it to infiltrate Buckingham Palace. But as a kid, you're like, yeah, what do I need gears, a toy maker, these uniforms for? And it's kind of fun, this is pre-Toy Story. We shrunk down to the size of a toy here.
Yeah.
To see that perspective. I just thought it was such a cool, the same way that Big Ben is cool because you've got these giant gears from the mouse perspective. I think it's also cool. It's one of the more elaborate backgrounds of the toy scene because there's just so much in the shop that I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by them approaching the glass and seeing the teeny tiny hole.
Yeah.
And Dawson being like, how did he get in there? And then Basil takes his finger and puts it in the hole and then he pulls it open. I don't know why, but I'm just like, that is just an iconic moment for me in this movie. I mean, my favorite sequences literally have all been talked about. I mean, I love the Ratigan World's Greatest Criminal Minds sequence. I think it's just so cool how you start with the introduction from Basil and then it fades into this scene where we're introduced to Ratigan as this power player. We get the entire song about his motivation, getting to know more about him, how his character works, and then the thunderclap on his face back to the portrait of Ratigan and Basil's home is just such a great visual storytelling moment. It's one of my favorite things in the movie. The clock tower scene, as we mentioned, the CG graphics that paved the way for Beauty and the Beast, the crane shot, the Hydra sequence in Hercules. But I think it's also just so cool color-wise because it's just all like glowing and yellow and sickly browns that I feel like we don't usually get that kind of color palette a whole lot. And then just like on another thing, it's interesting to have a scene take place in another iconic location from another Disney film that Big Ben and the clock tower is used so prominently in Peter Pan, and we have yet another sequence happening in the same place. I don't know. I like to imagine a timeline where like the two of them would happen.
Yes, I did that.
In the same way.
Yes.
Yeah, but then
Peter Pan's the reason why the arm and the clock struck and it shook Ratigan off.
So Peter is who I really have some beef with right now. So I'm going to have some words and maybe throw some hands. But yeah, then the burlesque scene. I mean, I don't think I could do without it in the same way that you would do it without it, Caroline, solely because I am forever grateful for the moment that we have of Fidget going into the pipe to Ratigan's lair, singing to himself.
Yeah, it's funny.
Let me be good to you, because it is so good. And Kenny Candido's performance of Fidget is just fantastic. And I mean, the last thing I'll say is I am dying to know the relationship of the lizard and the frog on the unicycle with the top hat and the cane that comes out right before they bring on Miss Burlesque Mouse. I need to know.
And that poor octopus. I felt so bad.
I know.
It was terrible.
I also feel really bad for that pianist mouse. Yeah. He's just having a rough day. And then he hits that ruffian and he's just like, he knows exactly what's happening. He's like, I'm dead. You can see the moment in his eyes where he just sort of accepts it, and then it happens.
It doesn't look a good bar scene.
Such a good bar scene.
I do want to bring up, though, for Ratigan, though, I really think his shining moment is the mousetrap at the end, because that is showmanship. I chose them all. And he's got a song. And he goes out on a blimp.
The blimp is amazing. The blimp is amazing.
What is this?
When he is explaining how it works, and he is just taking so much delight in it, and then when he's like, I've recorded a special song for you, and it pans over to Fidget, and he like demonstrates like Vanna White almost like how it works. Then he takes a bow. It's so good. And then just seeing like the anvil and the crossbow and the axe and the mousetrap and the metal ball and the chute and the gun. It's just like, I love the way this rat
in a scene.
It's Clue in a scene.
We used all of the weapons in the cellar
And then when he's just like, I can't, then he has a photo finish because he was 15 minutes late. But it's just, he's just like, say cheese. It's so, oh my God.
I think that's the scene that for most who watch this film, that's where they really pick up with the rest of the movie, is from the mousetrap scene through the end is really where most people tune in.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to appreciate in this film, and it's certainly something that, as we've discussed kind of within our mix, may be underappreciated by some fans. So why do you think this film might not be a usual favorite among Disney fans?
So I'm going to echo another fave podcast of ours, Disorder, a little bit here. And also reflecting on some things that's already been said. The characters, there's no arc anywhere in this film, and it's hard to personally draw into these characters. The film is solely plot-based. It is solely plot. And sometimes, like Conor, you said, I like that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I just want a good story. But I think what makes Disney is you have those characters that you really relate to or cling to and really feel for. And you do feel for Olivia, but you also can't identify necessarily with, we don't learn much more about Olivia other than my dad's been taken and he's a toy maker and I need help finding him. Like, that's kind of all we know about her. Basil maybe grows a little bit because at first he's like disgusted by the child and now he's like, oh, she's not so bad. But overall, there's not really character arcs. So I think that plays a piece in it, that it's more about the plot than character. And Disney is we've seen lots of films from Disney that the plot is good, but it's the characters that really pull through. And then I also just think the timing of this film, it fell after Black Cauldron.
Yeah.
But Little Mermaid comes next.
Yeah. Well, Oliver and Company.
Oliver and Company. Sorry, you're right. And
but the
good. Disney Renaissance is like right on the tail, and that kind of eclipses some of the other films.
Yeah, what I think is a lot of what you said in terms of what I personally look for in Disney movies. And also, if I am looking for something that's a bit more just plot-based, I want to solve a mystery, I feel like there isn't much in this film that I can't get from another film. If I want a mystery, I can watch something else. Like, I could watch, this isn't the same, but I could watch Scooby-Doo maybe. Or if I want a cute animal story, I have lots of other options for that. Like, I loved The Fox and the Hound. Again, that's definitely emotion character based, so not the same. But I can get those things in other places. And I think I was thinking about for kids, we've said this, I think there's a combination of some loud, overwhelming, unsettling moments that could turn some kids off from the start, if that kind of spooks them. I was watching it with my dog, and like the first time that Fidget arrived, she was out of there, like she was scared. And I think even if the kids aren't put off by some of the jump scares or the creep factor, I think sometimes that solving a mystery, fact-based kind of thing can be too slow for kids. And then, you know, they have only a few musical numbers to draw them back in, as we've discussed. So, and as you said, I don't know what kids, so that it's something that when we're kids, we latch onto it and then grow up with it. I don't know what kids can connect with necessarily in this if they're younger and aren't necessarily excited by solving mysteries and all of the facts and clues coming together quite yet. I don't know what there is for them, because I was thinking of the kids that I babysit and I'm like, I don't know if they would make it very far. I think they would get through World's Greatest Criminal Mind and totally love that, and then they might be a little lost after that. I think that might be it.
Ugh,
I'm sorry. That. He's gonna fight me after this.
I probably, but you can't get Vincent Price in any other movie like this. You just don't. So, whatever. But I think kids just need to, suffer through it until they love it. I get it. Yeah, it's pretty frightening at points. A lot of kids probably watched it once and were either too scared or they never watched it because they were too scared, and so they don't have that nostalgia factor for them working in a way that they do for other movies. Because you legitimately get 2 fidget in your face jump scares that are enough to send anybody packing, and then you've got the moment in the in the window where it's like the not quite a jump scare, the reveal where he's hanging upside down.
I instinctively avert my eyes.
Wow.
Because I did as a kid, and I noticed, I'm like, no, I can watch this, and like it's fine, and I force myself to watch it. I'm like, why was I scared of this? But I noticed when I watch, I still instinctively like turn my head like at those moments.
I remember you doing that when we were watching. Like, it's coming, and I was like, what's coming? And then he jumped out.
Yeah,
it's fun. I love this film because I hate jump scares.
I do too. Emily, are we the same person? I think we are.
Again, spin-off podcast is coming.
It's coming. But I'm so glad that you brought up that point about the timing of this, because it's the Dark Age time. I fully count Great Mouse Detective as part of the Dark Age and not part of the Renaissance. It's there with Black Cauldron. It's there with Oliver and Company. So it's sort of the Black Cauldron, anything that sort of follows the Black Cauldron that isn't the Little Mermaid sort of automatically assumes a level of forgettability because people just hated that movie. I mean, I don't understand why, because I could do another podcast about the Black Cauldron. I don't even care. But, it's also another mouse adventure after The Rescuers and, The Secret of Nim had come out from another studio.
American Tail.
And then early, this is the same year American Tail came out. And then a couple of years later, you've got Rockadoodle. So it's just like the mouse adventures are just like all happening. And so it becomes one of many as opposed to its own sort of standalone thing. And so I think that's probably why a lot of people forget about it. And that's not an excuse for them.
It's funny you mention the American Tail and Secret of Nim. Those are Don Bluth, who was a Disney animator and left the studio. That's also covered in Waking Sleeping Beauty. And when we were watching this last night, Doug asked me, was Don Bluth still around for that? Because he was like, this feels like a Don Bluth movie. I was like, no, he left, but I can see why you said that. And then I was also re-listening to Disorder for this, and Andy, one of the hosts there, makes a similar point about it feeling like a Don Bluth film. But I also want to dig a little more into the time period. Disorder refers to this area as the Disney Adequates, but going a little deeper, I'm thinking back on our childhoods because we're all around the same age. Like, we were fortunate enough to grow up in the Disney Renaissance. I'm trying to piece together why my parents didn't buy this on VHS. And then I'm thinking, our parents are all probably around a similar generation. Well, they're going up with things like Cinderella, like the films of the 50s and the 60s. So by the time Great Mouse Detective comes out, like, my mom is in her mid-20s. She doesn't have me until her 30s. So when it came time to purchase those VHSs, I know she bought Cinderella because Cinderella was her favorite. So, like, she wasn't instilling that, or maybe other parents weren't instilling that in our generation if they weren't purchasing it, because, like, I don't know about this one, but Winnie the Pooh's out again. Yeah, I loved Winnie the Pooh as a kid. So it's like we have our favorites that we look back on from Little Mermaid forward, because that's our time period, and then we were influenced by our parents, and I guess this just was not on their radar.
Yeah, my dad, he was a big, like, Sword in the Stone Robin Hood fan. And so, like, he was one of the people who, like, actually did see the Black Cauldron. So, I mean, because he also read all of the Prydain Chronicles. So he's kind of this interesting thing, because I feel like if I had asked him to buy The Great Mouse Detective, he would. And eventually he did, when I eventually down the road older asked for the VHS. But yeah, it's interesting because he was much more open to it, but I 100% see, like, in my mom, like, no way was she gonna, like, go to a store, pick up this VHS and be like, this is something that Connor would want to watch, in the same way that she had gone to the store and picked up Anastasia and was like, this is something that my kids should watch, or Swan Princess, or any of those other
it's a big Don Bluth fan with your mom.
Oh yeah, I have there's a lot of Don Bluth influence in my life. I will take any good animation. I will take it all.
I love that. Well, hopefully this film being on Disney Plus will inspire a new generation of
we can pray
fans. So that was the film. But what many people may not realize is that Disney's Great Mouse Detective is not based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. Certainly inspirations are there, but it's actually a children's series, Basil of Baker Street by Eve Titus. Emily, let's move into the book. Can you tell us a little more about the history of this series?
Yes, so we are a book podcast. Let's talk about it. So I learned lots of things. First off, Eve Titus was born in New York City, July 16th, 1922. I fully believe she was English. She is not. She is American. She is best known for her 2 children's series, both with mouse heroes, Antiel and Basil of Baker Street. Antiel features a French mouse and has 9 books. And for Basil of Baker Street, she wrote 5. Along with some other children's books, she wrote a total of 20 books between 1956 and 1982. Quite a career. And that lines up really well that 1982 was her last installment of the Basil of Baker Street series. And then we see that Disney buys the rights at that same time. Only 4 years later does it get turned into a film. So the series clearly had some traction. Titus is obviously a Sherlock Holmes enthusiast and is a member of the Mystery Writers of America, as well as the Baker Street Irregulars, which we hear mentioned in Basil of Baker Street. He has his own Homestead Irregulars that he calls on, but that is a thing. They are the informants to Sherlock Holmes, and this is an invitation-only organization of Sherlock Holmes enthusiasts. It was founded in 1934, and currently there's only about 300 members worldwide, so she is part of a very exclusive club. She passed away at the age of 79 in Orlando, Florida in 2002.
I've heard of that place.